early on in the season, so a lot of the ducks that turned up were in pairs. And as Paul said, whilst we had about 80 or 90 ducks living on this spot last night, we would have barely had 20 ducks show up this morning, mainly because our shots scared them because they were so close. I guess the situation they're sitting in here is worth stressing as well. It's very open, obviously. Southlanders are keen on drift shooting rivers, and a lot of ducks will get put out from willowy backwaters and under willows where they might otherwise like to be, and sit in a really open spot like they are here. You can't sneak up on them, stalk them, float down on them, so the ducks are relatively safe, and that's primarily why they're out in these open, exposed locations. We've had a fairly long stretch of frosty weather, although it's not frosty today. That also freezes up a lot of the ponds where some of these ducks would otherwise be living, and the ducks will come out to the flowing water and camp up on the rivers where it isn't frozen over, when all those wee hill ponds and all the wee willowy ponds are all frozen. So that's a good time to look for ducks in this sort of situation as well. So we probably should let people know, I guess, more about how we went about hunting here this morning, Paul.
Yeah, we just pulled a little bit of flood debris that you can see behind us, just for me to have a little bit of cover to hide beside, but wearing good camo gear and a face mask. You're really blending in the surroundings anyway. The more stuff you pull in, the more actual unnatural it's going to be. Just moved a few stones out of the way, make a little bit of a hollow for me to lie in, and it was really quite simple. I don't think you should if you find ducks in a situation like this, I think it's wrong to try and build yourself a mai or put up a portable mai or change the landscape too much. You're better off, it's easier to hide one or two people with a little bit of cover than it is to make major changes. The ducks probably won't notice that at all.
Another thing I noticed, Paul, is you let the ducks get well in this morning in this wind.
Yep, we wanted them head on as close as I could get. It's not always possible, but you're better off passing on a shot rather than having a long range crippled duck. If you have to go chase a wounded bird away down the river, you could miss out on a lot of hunting opportunities, because normally in these situations the hunting will be quite fast and furious in the first half hour of daylight, so you want to be organised, ready to shoot, and maximise your opportunities once again.
So what about calling birds in this situation, Paul?
Just the same as what we've talked about previously. Because they should be set on coming to this spot, you're not actually trying to call birds flying by. So we can actually keep our calling down to a minimal amount. A bit of a welcome when they're further out, a bit of an excited call, and I wouldn't call while they're too close. Let them just come on in. We did have a couple of situations where there were singles flying around a wee bit lost, a bit confused this morning, where we managed to blow the call at them and they come back for a look. But yeah, I don't think if you see a duck flying up the river towards the camp where we're set up at the moment, I don't think you need to go overboard with the calling.
One thing that's going to come up consistently through this video is having an adequate mai, and it's probably a bit of a hobby horse of mine, but going ranging into so many different mai, you see a lot of guys that really limit their opportunities because of their mai. So I've just brought you down to a fairly basic mai on the Ariti, but I think it's a good mai, certainly for this situation. It's got all the attributes that I think you need to consider. It mightn't have a palatial sort of entertaining barbecue area out the back, but strictly from a hunting perspective, it's a good basic mai, fairly simple, but yeah, it's got all the attributes I think you need. So I'll just pop in and have a look. Obviously it's got lots of fairly natural vegetation on it, provides lots of cover. Once you shut the door, you're fairly well hidden. It's got a clear area here so that when I'm standing, I can see the direction the birds are likely to be following the river here, although on a windy day like this, they might be coming over the back of us slightly more. I can see all around, I can see behind me, I can certainly see up and down the river. And if birds are in the area, I only need to duck down just a little bit. Obviously I wouldn't be wearing blue. Again, I'll be wearing my camo hat and camo clothing. And as birds are passing and working the decoys, it's easy to crouch down or just withdraw into the mai a wee bit. You're immediately hidden from view, ducks can't see you. And when it's time to shoot, you can just be in a sort of semi-crouching position, stand up, and you can easily swing your gun. Okay, so you can pretty much shoot birds that are over behind you or anywhere. You know, you're not limited in your swing.
so many mai-mais, you're effectively poking your gun through and you're trying to swing like that and shoot at ducks. People that have them too tight are scrubbed, if you like, and ducks are difficult enough to hit without trying to sort of push brush out of the way when you're shooting. So I really like stuff that's close to chest high, but once you stand up, your arms are free, you can get above it and you can swing. You can see well, you're not surprised by birds that suddenly appear, and you muff opportunities. And in fact, I think we've got some footage of that on the video when we've hunted from different mai-mais where birds surprise you, you end up missing shots that you certainly shouldn't. So I think this is really good, quite basic obviously. There's an area at the back here that you can get in out of the wind. Normally you won't be using this in summer like we are today, but normally the wind will be a bit colder when you're actually hunting ducks. So there's an area here where you can get out of the elements, sit down, have a cup of tea.
Right, well that's all for the video. Hopefully we've covered everything that you wanted us to cover. The video was primarily aimed at novice waterfowl hunters, although hopefully one or two more experienced guys might have picked up a tip or two. If you do require further information about waterfowl hunting, you should contact your regional fish and game office, and some of the staff there will definitely be keen to help you out. I hope you've enjoyed it and hope you get a bit more success as a result of watching it. Cheers. In this chapter of the video we'll cover hunting paradise shelduck. There's a few key differences between paradise shelduck and mallards that are probably worth highlighting. Paradise shelduck are a native species. Historically there weren't actually many of them, mainly found in the eastern South Island and in the Wairarapa. That's primarily because they graze pastures, which there wasn't much of in those days. Paradise shelduck are one of a group of 6 species internationally which lie between ducks and geese. Paradise shelduck, or parries as they're probably better known, don't breed until at least their 2nd year and often their 3rd. As a consequence, this leaves them quite vulnerable to over-harvest, compared to mallards especially. Parries evolved with few predators in New Zealand, and therefore they're not as wary as other waterfowl, which can make them quite a lot easier to hunt. Parries are predominantly grazers of pasture, and therefore generally they're hunted out on pastures where you can find them feeding. And because of their different biology and behaviour to mallards, they're often hunted in a different manner, and we'll try and cover those aspects that need to be considered to hunt them appropriately in the following section of the video. We're in Otago today, joined with Ian Hadland, who's a local fish and game officer here. We're going to hunt them on a grass paddock here. Ian's found the parries a couple of days ago. What can you tell us about the site here, Ian?
Well, the parries are obviously onto this very sort of new pasture, safe pasture if you like, and they've been really hounding it. So and the farmer's been good enough to give us a call, and so we're going to go and set some decoys up and see if we can hunt a few.
And the birds are staging off a lake just nearby here?
Yeah, the lake's nearby, and it's not ideal conditions when it's so flat calm, but the lake will roughen up and those birds will want to take to the air, and we'll get them coming into the decoys with any sort of luck.
Okay, so no secrets about setting up in this sort of scenario?
Not really. I think the most important thing is to just be very observant about which part of the paddock they're in and try and set up as close as possible to where they're actually landing. So you can look around in the grass and see where they've been. There's obviously feathers and some crap laying about here and there. And if you observe where they are, you can set your decoys up carefully in that particular area. You've got every chance of success.
Okay, and here we've set up near a fence line with a natural cover behind us a bit?
Yeah, I think it's important to use any natural cover that you've got available.